Hey there. What's up, guys? Welcome to the first official What to Watch For show for HoopBall. It is our NBA Fantasy Basketball pregame show, HoopBall presentation. I'm your host, Alan Srochi, and tonight we are just going to go through a lightning round of the 10 games that we have on the docket, 20 of the leagues, 30 teams. We're just going to be highlighting trends to keep your eye on, positives or negatives that we're seeing from already rostered players, or just trying to figure out who the next waiver wire ad is and have you guys prepared to jump on them and bring them onto your team before everyone else gets to them. So, make sure you please like and subscribe to the HoopBall YouTube page. You follow me on Twitter at the handle right there, my name, Alan Srochi. It's a little difficult, but, thankfully we can spell that out here. And also follow HoopBall Fantasy on Twitter. That's at HoopBall Fantasy, no hyphen. There you get your daily news from our experts at the blurbs. You get your fantasy news quick, and you get the analysis even quicker than anywhere else. So, without further ado, we're just going to dive right in. First game on the docket, the Philadelphia 76ers visiting the Charlotte Hornets. We have an update on the injury report for Charlotte. Terry Rozier is out with nursing his ankle injury, while PJ Washington is missing another game with his foot sprain that he sustained a couple games back, or the last game back. On the Rozier front, we saw that Malik Monk jumped out with a commanding performance, 36 points and 9 3-pointers in what was an overtime win. He runs pretty hot and cold. I'm sure he's been picked up in your league if you haven't picked him up already. And with Rozier out tonight, you should totally start him, see if he can keep up the hot play. Remains to be seen what will remain for him after we get past this point where Rozier is out of the equation, because Coach James Borrego has been pretty reluctant to play Malik Monk very much at all when he's had his full squad healthy. And it's possible that he's auditioning for just, I don't know, maybe to be traded elsewhere if maybe a bigger role for him awaits elsewhere. Because I don't know, Charlotte has been pretty unwilling to give him big minutes this season, despite pretty decent play towards the end of last year before he had to miss time with a drug suspension. On the PJ Washington front, we're looking at Miles Bridges, who was named the starter for this one, hoping that he can clear 30 minutes a night. He's a pretty shaky fantasy player, but he has upside in steals, blocks, and boards. And he can help out with some okay free throw percentage as well. We'll see if he is, if you're in a 12-teamer, I'm not that interested. A 14-team, he's probably worth a speculative ad until we wait and see how long Washington is out. But let's just see how much he plays tonight and whether or not Caleb Martin shaves off any meaningful amount of playing time like we sort of saw him do in the last game out. On the Philadelphia side of things, they're pretty straightforward as a fantasy team. All of their fantasy relevant players are probably already rostered, not much on the waiver wire to be looking at. I will be watching Seth Curry in this game, though, who has been pretty shaky since returning from his COVID diagnosis, which is going to be a running theme tonight. That's going to pop up more than once. But Curry, he's just been the shot just hasn't been there. In his 6 games back, he's been shooting an uncharacteristic 41% from the floor, ranked outside the top 180 in that span. But all the other stats that he's been bringing to the table, the minimal assists and steals, they have been there. So really, once his shot and his 3-point stroke is figured back out, he's probably going to jump right back into top 100 value. I think that he could be a top 80 guy the rest of the way as long as he holds on to his minutes. So just watching to see if he can shake off the rust tonight. It'll happen. It's just a matter of when. Next game, we are looking at the Pacers visiting the Bucks, an ESPN game. Really not much to look at from a fantasy perspective. We kind of understand where these teams are at. The one bit of news that trickled in today is that Miles Turner's questionable with a shoulder issue. Not quite sure what that is. He's up till now, I don't think they've made any mention of where he's going to be. But if he sits, I'm going to be a little interested in Goga Bitadze, who he's burned us a little bit the last time that Turner sat with his hand issue. But the Bucks are a pretty large front court, and his shot blocking prowess might be pretty useful in a game like this. They might want him for some interior defense. If he gets up to 20 minutes a night, he's definitely going to be worth it for the blocks alone. And if you're able to pick him up and throw him in your lineup tonight, it wouldn't be the worst call in the world. It's a little risky because we've seen that Indiana is willing to slide Sabonis down to the center and play smaller at the forwards with Doug McDermott and Justin Holiday. But, I do think this is a favorable matchup for him if Turner sits. On the Bucks side of things, there's nothing. They're not really anybody interesting here. Bobby Portis will play really well if it's a blowout, which I don't think it will be. And I guess you're looking for Dante DiVincenzo to figure out his shot and kind of get the steals back up to the rates that we're familiar with him, which is, it's definitely possible. So it's just a matter of when. Next game on the docket is the Dallas Mavericks visiting my Atlanta Hawks. It's Dallas side, no injuries to report on, which is a refreshing change of pace for them, certainly. There's a key name I'm watching on their side of things, though, and that's Maxi Kleber, who we saw immediately returning from COVID last week in his last game, play 18 minutes in the starting lineup. I'm curious to see what his role in the rotation is going forward, because interestingly, we did not see Dwight Powell play at all, and Willie Cauley-Stein only played 14 minutes. There was a lot of KP and Kleber playing the center role. And if Kleber gets to like 25 minutes a night, that's enough for standard league value. Pretty good value at that, too. He's got upside in steals, blocks, threes, and he can get you some boards, too, in that amount of work. So for tonight, I would want to watch to see, how fresh he looks, because he's got that COVID rust for his first game back. He did not shoot the ball well at all. He's usually better than what we saw last time. Atlanta plays pretty large with Clint Capella in the middle, so it might not be the best game to see him ramp up to 25 minutes, but if he looks good and he gets higher than 18, maybe up into the low 20s, I'm cool with a speculative ad in deep league, certainly, maybe even 12-teamers, because he will have some pretty interesting upside if he's playing 25 minutes in those starting lineup night in and night out. And I'm sure he's on your wire, because in all my competitive leagues, I can get him right now if I wanted. Hawks side of things, DeAndre Hunter is out nursing his knee issue that he sustained in Sunday's game against the Wizards. Only guy I'm really paying attention to for the Hawks is Danilo Gallinari, who they've been very careful with his minutes since returning from an ankle injury. He's yet to clear 19. We know that he was brought in to provide offense off the bench, and he's probably going to get to 25 minutes consistently pretty soon. And this is a good matchup for it. These are two offensively geared teams now that Dallas is up to full speed. It could end up being a shootout. There's a little bit of, I don't know how real the rivalry is, but we all know the Trae Young, Luka Doncic dynamic. Sometimes you get up to play teams like that when there's a narrative. If it's a shootout, that's very favorable for Gallinari. So I'd want to see him clear 19 minutes tonight and play a little bit more, take some of those forward minutes that Hunter's been holding down. Next game, Clippers visiting the Cavs. Clippers on the second night of a back-to-back. And now that Nick Batum is back in the lineup, I'm not really all that interested in anything on their side. Batum seems pretty set in the role that he's carved out for himself. Morris would be the only guy who would contend for that role. And frankly, I don't really know if they want him in the starting lineup. He might be better as a bench scorer. Cleveland side, we know that Larry Nance has been ruled out tonight with a wrist issue, and Andre Drummond is questionable with his back. And they're pretty straightforward as well. Taurean Prince will be a fine streamer to use, starting at power forward without Larry Nance. And if Andre Drummond is out, then Jared Allen's just going to be in the starting lineup, and he's just going to destroy you. He's been in a top 60. He was a top 60 player in his few games with Cleveland when Drummond was playing. Without him, he's got a clear runway to just go much, much higher than that. And if we expect Drummond to be dealt or just bought out or whatever, expect him to not be on this team by the end of the year, then I think Jared Allen is going to have a pretty fantastic finish to the year. Next game, Wizards at the Miami Heat. We know that on the Wizards side of things, Russell Westbrook is sitting out for rest while Raul Neto is nursing a groin issue. So we're probably going to see a decent amount of Ish Smith in this one, who's also working his way back from COVID. Not my favorite fantasy player, but he's fine if you need some assists in a stream tonight. The guys I'm interested on the Wizards side of things is first Mo Wagner, who I maintain is the best center on their roster, definitely from a skill set perspective. Alex Lynn and Robin Lopez are big bodies who will be in there to grab some rebounds, but Wagner is the guy that you want to keep your eyes on. If he can work his way into a 20-minute to 25-minute role, 20-minute side of things, he's got some 14-team league appeal, and 25 minutes, I think he could be a 12-teamer. It's just a matter of how much burn he's able to get. It's unclear if this will be the matchup. Last game we saw him drop down to 16 minutes after a very productive 20 minutes against Brooklyn's defense in the game before. So just want to watch and see how that center rotation's going, and whether he can make any room there. Dallas Bertans is the other guy I'm looking at, shaking off his COVID absence rust. He's shooting 31% on threes on the year, which is 8 points below his previous career mark of 39. So that's almost a guaranteed bet to come back up. I'd look to buy low if I could, because once he's hitting threes at the rate that we know he should be, he's gonna be a standard league guy, probably a top 80, best case top 70 player. So good buy low opportunity while he's still not able to find that shot. Heat side of things, Mo Harkless is the only guy on the injury report. He's out nursing a left thigh issue, so you're going to see a lot of KZ Okpala and Kelly Olynyk at the 4. And Olynyk is the guy that I want to zero in on here, because I think that he is going to sort of bounce his way back into that really interesting standard league 9-cat guy that we saw before Jimmy Butler left with COVID. Really understated aspect of Olynyk's struggles was the fact that the Miami Heat were missing their best perimeter playmakers in Butler and Tyler Hero. Both of them are back now, and I don't think it's a coincidence that Olynyk's shot has been far more efficient since then. Just to read you a few numbers here, before Butler left with his COVID issues, Olynyk was shooting 46% from the floor. During the stretch where Butler was out, he shot down to 37, and in the 2 games back that Butler has been in, Olynyk has been shooting 50% from the floor. Small sample size, but you sort of get the gist here. He relies on guys to set him up. He's a great spot-up shooter. If that shot is falling, all the other stats will come together, and he could have some real standard league value. Tonight, he's going up against a porous Wizards defense who have never been good at guarding bigs. He could really, really go off tonight, and if he's on your wire, it might be the type of game that takes him off of it afterwards. So keep a close eye on his production tonight. If he's cooking by halftime, I'd go ahead and add him, because I feel pretty good about his standard league future going forward now that Butler's back in the fold. Next game is Knicks and Bulls. For the Knicks side of things, obviously we're watching Emmanuel Quickley. You know the drill there. He's just better than Elfrid Payton, but he's a rookie, and he does provide useful scoring off the bench. Tom Thibodeau is more happy when he's miserable, so he's probably going to be there for a little while longer. The other interesting dynamic here, though, is Nerlens Noel and Mitchell Robinson. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because it's a little speculative, and I'm putting on my tinfoil hat here. But I think Mitchell Robinson's playing hurt. He popped up on the injury report mid-January, I think it was the 17th, with both a heel issue and a left knee issue. In the game, and I haven't watched every Knicks game, so I might be off base, but he's just looked a little less explosive to me since that time. And just taking a look at the numbers since that 17th game, we've seen Mitchell Robinson fall from 30 minutes a night to 27. Points have still been there, but he's averaging a rebound less per game, down to 1.4 blocks, which in 27 minutes, you feel like Mitchell Robinson should still be giving you more. Conversely, since that time, Nerlens Noel has bumped himself up to 21 minutes a night, when he's definitely worth a look on a standard league roster at that rate for his steals and blocks and decent percentages. It's just, I don't really know. I don't understand the dynamic. I need to watch this team more. And if you are able to tonight, watch and see how Mitchell Robinson looks. See if you see what I saw, where he looks a little more lackadaisical out there. If Noel's playing 20 minutes a night, I mean, you got to put him on your team. He's that good. Chicago side, nothing really to watch. We kind of get the gist here. Thad Young is on a heater. He's like the point guard now. So if you've got him on your team, I doubt he's on your wires at this rate. Just continue to ride it until Wendell Carter is able to come back. Other than that, with Otto Porter being ruled out with a back issue, yeah, that was him and then Patrick Williams dynamic was the only other thing I'd be paying attention to. But he's out, so nothing really to see there. Next game, Rockets and Thunder. This game's going to be hard to gauge because both teams are missing pretty important pieces. Houston side, John Wall is out, just injury management over the Achilles. He's going to be seeing this all throughout the year. We get that. Whereas David Nwaba is also out nursing a left ankle injury. The guy to watch there, and again, it's going to be tough to assess much because there's so many guys missing in this game. Daniel House is interesting just because he can play both forward spots. We've seen it, the success for him before. He's got the track record. Had some good numbers in his last game, but it was largely in garbage time. I'm just watching to see what kind of meaningful minutes he's playing tonight and how good he looks while he's doing it. Got some upside in defensive stats and threes if he's playing a bunch. So we'll find out and see. if he holds there. He'd be taking minutes from Jayshawn Tate and PJ Tucker pretty much. And I don't think that Tate's got that starting job locked down for sure. Thunder side of things, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is out with a left knee sprain, where George Hill is out for at least the next month with a thumb issue. So the dynamic that we were going to be watching here, if SGA was playing, was Theo Maledon versus Hamidou Diallo, where, those two are going to absorb all of Hill's minutes. Maledon, I believe, Maledon's been playing starting minutes. I can't remember if he or Diallo were actually in the lineup. But, both of these guys are being looked at right now. They're being picked up because everyone wants to see how the pieces fall. I'm not sure. I think Maledon is the guy who has the highest upside. We've seen him look really good with the shot so far. He's shooting like 62% in the 4 games that Hill's been out. So that's clearly not sustainable. But he's got some punch to him. He looks good playing next to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So he's probably worth a speculative add if you have someone on your bench that you don't really care about. Diallo is, his fantasy game, it looks better than it really is when you see the consistent points in the teens. But in those 4 games without Hill, he's ranked outside the top 180. He's just not able to get it done with enough defensive stats. His percentages aren't all that great, and he doesn't give you any threes. But again, tonight it's going to be tough to assess anything without SGA in the lineup. Before we get to the last games here, just want to give another shout out to the HoopBall Fantasy Twitter page. You can follow them at HoopBall Fantasy, no hyphen between HoopBall and that. Really critical for you to get all of your fantasy analysis there. We do a lot of hard work on that feed. And yeah, just these shows, they'll be popping up on that feed too as we go on. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to that on Twitter. And subscribe to, follow. We're on YouTube right now. Follow them on Twitter. You can follow me at the Twitter handle there in the screen too, or there, that one, where I do watch lists like these in tweet form as well. But, this format allows me to be a little more, to expand upon it while still trying to stay concise. So yeah, give them both a follow, please. And now we'll go to the next game on the docket, probably one of the most interesting fantasy games to watch tonight, and that's the Timberwolves at the Spurs. We started the Minnesota side of things. Karl Anthony Towns is out for health and safety protocols, while Juancho Hernan-Gomez is out for conditioning. But he's coming back soon, Juancho is, and Karl Anthony Towns isn't going to be far behind him. And we're really going to start having a moment of truth with this Timberwolves team once they get to that point. We've seen a lot of Jared Vanderbilt sort of popping off with defensive stats and rebounds. He's been starting a lot of games, not recently, but he was. And in 24 minutes, he was producing top 80 value with just really high steal rate, interesting assists from his position, and high field goal percentage. He was very interesting. And then recently we've seen Anthony Edwards ascend to the starting lineup, particularly with Naz Reid going out and having to squeeze Ed Davis in, so that you don't have this just disgusting shooting lineup of Ed Davis, Josh Okogie, and Jared Vanderbilt. But Edwards has looked good in the starting lineup. There's a clear incentive to play him a lot. He's the #1 pick. He's interesting too. I mean, I can't remember the last time we've had a season where you have all 3 of the top 3 picks playing off the bench the way that they have been all this year. But Edwards has been in that situation. And it remains to be seen what this lineup's going to look like once everyone is back. So, we're going to just keep an eye on the rotation tonight. Ideally, if Edwards can get to 30 minutes and Jared Vanderbilt can get to 24, regardless of, the starting lineup configurations, I think both have fantasy value. The one guy that you just don't want to sort of squeeze into the equation here is Juancho Hernan-Gomez, because he's not part of the future and he's not helping your fantasy teams. On the Spurs side, very interesting as well. We're watching Derek White. He is back from missing pretty much all of the season with a separate toe issue. He missed the start of it with a toe fracture, and then I think he fractured a different one after playing 1 game. So 2 games back. Pop hasn't given us a clear indication of what the minutes limit are, and he never really will, but he's been playing 22 minutes in his past 2 games. And more importantly than seeing him ramp up his minutes, I want to see more minutes played next to DeJounte Murray, because that's the only way that we're going to see those two ascend to the fantasy ceilings that we projected for them. They looked, Pop did it in the bubble, played those 2 at point guard and shooting guard together, and they looked fantastic. Both clear top 100 players. I mean, top 70 players, both, honestly. And if they're splitting point guard duties, it's going to be harder for either of them to hit that plane. So I want to see more. They barely did that. They barely did that in the 2 Grizzlies games. I want to see more DeJounte Murray and more Derek White sharing the floor together. Also, I missed this part on the injury news, but LaMarcus Aldridge is out with a right hip injury, and Rudy Gay is out with a left hip injury. So obviously, a lot of Jakob Poeltl in this game. He's good, grabbing rebounds and blocking shots. And without Rudy Gay, there'll be enough minutes to go around for DeRozan, Keldon Johnson, and Lonnie Walker to all see, pretty high minute workloads. But the assumption is when this team is healthy, Lonnie Walker is the guy who's going to be squeezed out of the equation with Derek White hopefully ramping up to a high 20-minute, 30-minute role. 2 games left to go on here. We have the Phoenix Suns and the New Orleans Pelicans. Phoenix side, nothing really aside from watching Devin Booker try and get back up to speed after missing 4 games with a hamstring issue. There was a time where I was looking at Cameron Johnson. He had a really interesting start to the year. Top 80 value in 23 minutes a game in 9-cat, really like getting it done with low turnovers, good shooting percentages, threes and steals and rebounds. Amazingly, despite the fact that he's like playing 30 minutes pretty consistently, none of his counting stats have come back up. They're basically the same that they were when he was a bench player. And, the interest is still there, but he's not capitalized on much of anything at all. So if you want to watch anyone on Phoenix, maybe see if he can cobble some high steal and 3-point numbers together, because he can be pretty interesting if he's hitting those, but hasn't really worked for him in his new role. Pelican side of things, I believe Steven Adams has been ruled out on this one. If he doesn't play, then we're just going to see Willie Hernan-Gomez, who came out of nowhere. I honestly didn't remember he was on the team. He wasn't in the rotation, and he hopped over Jackson Hayes and played like 29 minutes. Good points and rebound streamer if Adams is out. The real thing, though, to watch on the Pelican side is the bench wing battle between Josh Hart and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. JJ Redick's out of the rotation. I think a trade is imminent. They're just not putting him out there anymore. So it's really just going to be a matter of where all those minutes go. Josh Hart got like a lot of them last game. He played 30 minutes off the bench and was great. Nickeil Alexander-Walker in the game before that saw 30 minutes, and he was great. Those two have traded. We have not seen a split between the two. We've seen one getting 30 minutes and the other getting like 19. I think that you're kind of rooting for that, the 30-19 minute split, but you're kind of hoping it goes to one guy consistently, at least until we see some trades on this roster. Josh Hart probably has got the more reliable fantasy game. Nah has more upside. But yeah, Hart's a decent guy for threes, steals, and rebounds at the guard spot. We'll see if he can capitalize off of his last game and continue to play more. And the last game on the docket, Boston Celtics at the Sacramento Kings. Boston on the second night of a back-to-back. They are going to be without Marcus Smart, who's nursing that calf issue. Kemba Walker is sitting this one out for rest. And Peyton Pritchard is also out for the knee issue. So Boston's 3 main guards all out. As a result, they're going to go big. That's what we saw in their last game. Our hope was that Robert Williams was going to be seeing 18 minutes consistently, but we didn't see that. He only saw 8 in that last game. And, this is an unpopular take, but I've sort of given up on Robert Williams. I mean, I'm not out, like I'm just never going to look back on it. But it was always alarming to me that the first move that Boston made this offseason was to sign Tristan Thompson. If they really, truly believed in Robert Williams, I feel like they would have signed someone who wouldn't be taking these minutes directly from him. And I just don't feel like Brad Stevens has ever trusted Williams with a real important role. It's just too inconsistent. The upside's incredible. But until Tice or Tristan Thompson are out of the picture, I just don't know if it's going to happen. Then with Kemba out, Jeff Teague's going to get the start. He'll be a fine streamer tonight. You got to see he's going to be playing a lot of minutes, and Tremont Waters will also be getting some burn off the bench as well. And then the Sacramento side, no real injuries. Nothing really all that interesting to watch for either. The one thing is Hassan Whiteside was hitting like 20 minutes in a couple games in a row, and everyone was just like, uh-oh, here he comes. And I don't know. Rashawn Holmes is better. Unless Holmes is out of the way entirely, Whiteside's not going to get to 20 minutes a night to be worth it. So, yeah, nothing really on the Sacramento side of things. And, yeah, that's our 10-game card, everyone. this was, we're trying to keep these shows short and concise and just full of information for y'all. We went a little longer than normal. It's our first show and a lot of games to cover, a lot of interesting ones too. But if you liked this show, if you want to see more of them, feel free to leave comments. We love the feedback. Please, please, please shoot a follow over at the HoopBall Fantasy Twitter page. We'll be, I believe our next show is going to be this upcoming Friday, where the great Adam King will be manning that one. So check us out there. Check me out on Twitter at Alan Srochi, where I'll be giving it. I'm happy to give out fantasy advice there as well. And yeah, good luck tonight. Keep your eye on all these scores and watch some games if you can. And we'll see y'all next time.